On this episode, oh shit.
How many times do you redo that?
Not often.
Oh, do you? I was wondering. I was like, every time you do it, it's so perfect.
No, it's not. On this episode, oh my god. Now I'm all nervous. All right, so
Don't worry, dude. We roll with it.
So hold on. 3. On this episode, oh my goodness. I'm just like trying to rush it out. All right, last try. Otherwise, we're just going to...
You got to put this in there.
If this one fails, I'm keeping all 4 of the fails in, and that's going to be the intro. Fuck all of them.
Do it.
On this episode of Still Loading, we get all 80s up in this bitch.
There we go.
Hey guys, it's Josh, and welcome back to this new episode of Still Loading. For this week's episode, I have 2 lovely guests with me here today.
I'm Brian from KGA Podcast.
I am James, also from KGA Podcast.
No, he's not.
That's right, guys. The geeks are here. No Geeks Allowed in the studio. Well, the game room, I guess.
It's a nice game room. It's very impressive.
Hey, we got a tour before we came on, and this is awesome. Like, awesome.
For anyone that doesn't know, Josh's collection is immaculate.
I have spent way too much of my life on on this game.
I could not be on this episode just because I want to see this. I was like, I don't know if I want to hang out with Josh. And he's like, you got to see his collection. I'm like, I'm coming over.
It's a long fucking drive, I know. So we played Vice Project Doom for this week. So I invited you guys on to talk about this 80s as shit game. But it's not a shit game, I'll say that.
It's not a shit game. I'll agree with you.
It's really I don't know. So first off, in true Still Loading style, the cover of this bitch, it's really fucking 80s. It's really, really 80s. How would you guys describe what you see here?
I mean,
go ahead. Feel the box in your hand.
Oh,
that's what. Touch it. Feel the collection.
Feels like cocaine residue.
Yeah. What? Oh, definitely.
Oh man, I think that's the game itself. It's not Josh, but
well, I mean, that's the 80s all over. They packaged cocaine in with it. I mean, obviously because it was from the 80s.
I think it really lives up to the name Vice because it's like they really went hard in this.
I don't get why it's called Vice.
Miami Vice, maybe.
That's what I was thinking.
You're in like China.
Oh yeah,
yeah, you're right. It's not even like
you're
close.
in Asia.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, really, that game does not make sense, but it's cool. It's fun to play. I'd say that.
I mean, the art. If this was a movie, like going into a blockbuster, I would want to rent it.
I feel like Colin Farrell would be in that movie.
Well, so here, because we couldn't. Let's preface this by saying we didn't understand the story at all when we played this.
Nope,
it was very hard to figure out what the hell they were even talking about. So what we can see here is the back of the box says everybody's craving it and the hunt is on. Well, that's weird.
Sounds like suggestive.
That sounds very sexual.
I'm a little uncomfortable by that.
Well, the tagline directly above it says "Shoot to thrill."
All right, that's a little better. I'd like that. I'll take that one over the other one any day.
So this is what it has. Gel, in quotations. Gel is the latest to hit the streets. It's neon green, lethal, and dropping its users like flies. So it's a drug. Okay.
No, it is about drugs.
All right, Vice.
What's Vice?
Yeah.
I mean,
you.
Oh my God.
Your Vice. Oh no, sorry. Your Vice officer Quinn Hart. I thought his name was Vice for a second.
You're
I totally. Yeah. I'm like. Well, they put it right on Front Street.
I would have loved it even better if they did that.
They just named him Vice. Quinn Hart. A no-nonsense sledgehammer for the law. You pack a vicious 44, crushing grenades, and a lightning-fast laser whip that gives you an edge over anything on 2 feet. I didn't know that was a laser.
I didn't know it was a whip.
I forgot about that.
I
remember reading it.
I thought that was a sword. Yeah,
I could call it a sword.
Your mission, take down the big boss of this operation. It ain't easy. You've got an army of assassins just waiting to take you for a ride. All right.
Again, another suggestiveness of this.
Oh, and then ready? a long ride. There you go.
Oh man, well at least you're getting a detour. I mean, the full scenic view. I mean, not the I want the detour.
You battle in the dark alleyways of Chinatown. That's why it looked like it.
China.
There you go.
That makes somewhat more sense.
On the highways and through steamy jungles. Ultimately, you'll have to seek and destroy the vendor of the green elixir.
What made the jungle steamy?
I don't know.
I don't
the
know.
vines.
That's what I'm saying.
Did you see how hot it was? He was sweating.
I was just curious.
I mean, he's sweating on the box art.
I've never
practically.
heard someone describe a jungle as
His
steamy.
muscle, his bicep looks way too big for the rest of his fucking body. It looks like his shoulder, like where it connects to his shoulder looks like it's easily like 4 inches smaller.
I get what you're
than
saying.
His bicep.
It looks
You
like
see
he
what
has
I
a
mean?
tumor.
That's actually her other arm, unbeknownst to the player.
Her other.
She just has one giant mute.
I'm pretty sure she's putting her arm around him and just like pushing up his arm.
doing the
Well, it's so what I think is really funny about this, and you guys will see this on like the little icon, I get whatever the fuck it's called. The thing that goes in the little when you upload a podcast, you can put a little like image in there for the episode. So I usually put the image of the box art on there. I don't know if you can even see it, but what I like about it is that their faces are clearly airbrushed over top of something else. Like they don't look like they belong.
Oh, wow.
That's
I didn't
true.
notice that.
The tone of their face, like the skin color tone of their face, is much lighter than the rest of their body, especially the chick.
Like someone scanned that from a book.
Yeah, it looks like they photoshopped it right on top of it.
Stolen art.
Wouldn't shock me.
It's just awful. I like how there's like construction, like tape or whatever at the top of it, or something like that. So anyway, I guess to dive in, what were your guys' impressions of it? Overall impressions. Let's start there.
Want to go first, James?
I mean, I love the first level. It's like a spy hunter like homage, like kind of like you're that top down car, and you're like your car has guns, and you're just shooting the shit out of like just waves of those. What that style game is like when you're flying planes on them screen.
Shoot 'em up.
Shoot 'em up. I know, I love
Shmup.
those games, and then you get to the boss fight. And I'm like, all right, cool. I can get down with a car racing game, and then like the next level, you're on foot in like a platformer, Ninja Gaiden, side scrolling Metroid game, and I'm like, okay. This is pretty cool.
A lot of old NES games would do shit like that. They wanted to combine as many styles of gameplay as possible, and since game design was relatively new back then, like it didn't really do it well. Like if you look at games now, right? Almost every game has RPG elements into it, right?
Yeah.
If they did that on like an NES game, that would be very ham-fisted. It would just be. I don't even know if there's an example of something. River City Ransom actually has RPG elements into it, so that's a pretty good like whatever. It's a good mixture of it. But like all right, perfect example. If you play some of the more modern, since you guys talked about in your last episode, 007 games, they have car segments and they have shooting segments, but they kind of blend pretty well together.
That's true.
But back then,
maybe I was just like shocked to see it in like an NES game that it was kind of like. And more or less, I noticed it more, and I was like...
Most of the games back then, like at least it felt like, with the games I played, they were like very one note. It's like you did this one specific gameplay type, so to switch it up like that, I really appreciated it. I actually enjoyed it. But like, yeah, I can see how, like, if you didn't know that going in, you're like, whoa, wait, what is this game again?
Adventures of Bayou Billy did that a lot, too, but that game was...
Bayou Billy.
I didn't play that, but from the sound of the name alone, I feel like I would be sitting in a rocking chair playing it.
It's
Gator meat.
I can show you the box. I did an episode on it like forever ago, and it has like one of those really compressed digital voices where it goes "Bayou Billy," like and like it's really bad.
Wait, okay, I'm on board now. I'm back on board.
It's pretty fantastic.
I'm back in. I'm sold.
Might just go around town saying that.
Bayou Billy.
Going to work, the first thing you do, you have like a Crocodile's ND hat on. You're like Bayou Billy.
I'll be escorted from the building. That'd be great.
That's not a knife.
I just picture you bringing. Oh, that'd be awful.
It's a raccoon.
I'm just on the news then.
yeah, that's where you need to be.
Yeah.
I'm just
It's not a knife. It's a laser whip.
I'm on the news. Bayou Billy.
That's not a whip. This is a whip. Yeah. No, so then the game switches from that kind of top-down shmup like car shooter thing to, like you said, it's a platformer. It's an action platformer, kind of in the vein of Ninja Gaiden, and the controls and the gameplay was fucking awesome.
It's pretty well done. Like, I enjoyed that actual aspect of it. The one thing I just got hung up on is like really just didn't feel like there's nothing original about it. It feels like everything about that game, they just were like, they took from other aspects of other games that did it better, and they just all combined it like, oh, we want to make a game like
The
that.
level design reminded me of like how Mega Man is like. There's like jump, take a ladder down, and like take a ladder up, jump, duck, dodge, and
And the graphics actually kind of remind me of. You ever play the Batman game for the NES?
No, I don't remember that at all.
I can show it to you. I have it somewhere over there. You can actually see it. It's probably closer over here. Yeah, right there.
Is that based off the original
It's
movie?
kind of based off of no, not like the Batman '66 movie, but like it's based off like the Michael Keaton one.
okay.
Yeah.
It's got
movie.
But Batman's purple for some reason. I think it's mainly because of the color palette, because they chose such dark backgrounds that like if they kept with the black costume, you wouldn't be able to see him. But in any case, so no, like I agree, it is a little generic, but I thought the gameplay was actually like varied enough that I actually like. I want to play it some more. I actually want to continue on playing it.
It's a game where like that. I feel like that's the best thing you can describe it as. It's fun to play, but I feel like there's like really no memorable moments to it. That's what it felt like. It felt like you play it, and you have a good experience, but you're like a couple days later, you're like, what was that game about again?
We didn't even know what it was about until we read the back of the box.
Totally didn't know.
It's drugs, apparently drugs.
Drugs and
that's what you felt. It wasn't cocaine. It was gel.
Oh, it was gel on it.
They just packaged gel with it. Obviously,
got in my hair.
Or like spikes out your back. Like the enemy design was like there's like later on there's like soldiers. Earlier on there's like mutants.
Something that looked like it looked to me like the Chinese, like, and I'm not saying this to be, it sounds racist saying it, but Chinese vampires, and it's because in Chinese mythology vampires like they hop because rigor mortis is set in, and that's how these enemies move. They kind of held like this, and they would hop.
That would definitely explain it because I was like, did
and
they
it
just stop
takes
coding?
place in Chinatown.
It's true.
They also did look like school, like old school, like almost like Harry Potter school teachers that are just jumping at you.
Yeah.
That's what I was like. All right, this is interesting.
One of the coolest mechanics I thought was the fact that you can crouch and run at the same time. You never see that on many games.
That was a great. I really did enjoy that. It added another layer to
When
it.
I played that, didn't know that. I died so many times because I didn't know I could do that.
stumbled upon that. Yeah.
That would make a great speedrunning thing. Like if you spent like that would make speedrunning 10 times more fun because now you don't. It's not like Castlevania where when you crouch you either walk really slow or you just stop moving completely.
Yeah. It made me actually realize as you're playing it, I'm pretty sure that was a core mechanic of the game because I feel like they designed a lot of the enemies and the bosses around the fact that you can move while ducking, which of course limits you can't get hit if you're standing up straight or from anything goes overhead. So I feel like they really made that game or any like enemies specifically for that.
It was and especially because like a lot of the enemies with range attacks they would shoot at intervals, so it would give you time to jump in, crouch, and run over. Like they always place the enemies far enough away that if you weren't crouching, you would get hit by a secondary or third shot. Or something
that's
like
what
that.
It felt like when I was playing.
So it really forces you to actually kind of do that crouch maneuver. And unfortunately for James, if you don't know about that, you end up getting hit a lot.
Which I really want to see what he was playing that, or how he was playing that. That sounds so much harder.
It was, dude. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I'm a dirty little pirate, and I emulated the shit out of that game. And I had so many saves. The amount of times I died I was like, I want to play this game for 15 minutes. I played a game for like an hour and a half, and got
real. You guys came
passed.
prepared. I was expecting you guys just to come over, try it out on my NES here, and we'd go from there. But
it was one of those things like I just wanted to try because I remember this. I had this game as a kid, and I remember I could only do the first stage. It's the only stage I wanted to do because I liked the car, and I was like maybe I think I was like 4 when I played this game.
That is my favorite stage, by the way.
Yeah, I always like those shoot 'em ups, and then
the music was on that stage was awesome, but you couldn't hear it because of the shoot.
That's probably why I said like the music isn't very good because I was like I didn't hear it in the first stage.
The music's pretty varied too. I mean, level by level. I mean, there's only so much you can do, but like they don't really get tired of the music. I was actually more impressed with the soundtrack than I normally should have been because I was like, this NES game can't be that good.
Well, NES music in general, not in general, like a lot of it is really well composed. It's not always like you don't always get the full effect of it, but because they only had 3 sound channels, they had to focus on a lot less. It's not like you could have like a full like orchestra or something on it. It was all just chip tunes essentially. They would have to focus on the melody versus the actual like experience. Like think of it this way: what's one of the more recent newer games you guys have played?
Wolfenstein.
Well, do you remember any music from it?
No, not at all.
Exactly. That's not a bad thing necessarily. The music for it's just not memorable. It's meant to enhance the experience. It's not meant to stick in your head. You need a strong melody to stick in your head. The most recent game that in my memory that has like a strong melody that's not just like a indie throwback like Shovel Knight, which has awesome music, but it's meant to kind of be like that.
It's like a retro game.
Halo. The Halo song.
Yeah.
The Halo theme.
A whole soundtrack. Oh man.
Dude, that's that chant in the beginning gets me every time, man.
It's a really even the way it's composed. They have this isn't me I'm not smart enough to critically think about it like this. I got this from a video on YouTube. But basically, if you think about the Halo theme, they add memorable like melody after melody. So you have the chorus, or sorry, the choir doing that chanting thing. And then you hear the drums kick in.
I always remember that. I just remember that last scene where you're driving with the warthog.
And then on top of that, even they add a third melody on top of that with the strings that I can't even do it.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, and it sticks in your head because it's just memorable melody after memorable melody. It's a catchy thing. Like you've probably listened to it even outside of the game because it's that good. It's the same thing with old Mega Man music. Mega Man music is amazing.
Oh, yeah. Mega Man music is iconic.
Castlevania music's really good.
So you think that was what they had to do back then, with NES games, especially this one, that game. I mean, as jokingly as we're making fun of it, and it was a great game. It was actually really fun. But do you think that's the secret back then? They knew that if we just put some good music behind this, we can kind of hide some of the flaws of the game.
I don't know if they knew that, but they definitely. I would assume. I mean, here's the thing with old games like that, because they only had 3 sound channels and they had to focus on it. That's only enough. 3 sound channels, technically 4, but they usually the 4th one is for percussion or it's for sound effects. Which is why if you hear on certain especially the later Mega Man games on the NES when he had the charge shot, you'll notice when you charge it up and you hear the whoa, 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 the wave sound or whatever for his beam, you'll notice one of the sound channels just drops out because it's being used for that wave effect.
Interesting.
So since they only really had 4 channels, one for percussion / sound effects and the other 3 were for music, you could only really play one chord at a time. That's it. You couldn't have multi. So the way they would kind of get around that is they would use arpeggios, which are the. I'm trying to think of a really good example. It's like jumping from a low to high note, just rapidly, like something like that. I'm pretty sure that's what an arpeggio is. You know what? I'm talking out of my ass. I should probably Google it.
I believe him, but I mean, it definitely makes sense though, with the sound dropping out, because that first level when you're in that car and you had the bass from shooting the gun in the car, dude, music's going.
A lot of sound effects that really overpowered. I didn't even know there was music in the game in the first level.
Yeah,
when you just hear the
I really didn't. So you said something, I'm like, oh yeah,
because you weren't shooting right away, and I was like, oh shit, there's music.
Yeah, there was a dip in it. One side note, I always thought arpeggios is you playing all notes in a scale.
It's the notes of a chord played in succession, either ascending or descending. So pretty much. So I was way off with it.
I thought it was a bunch of islands strung together.
It's really cool. Seeing people
that's
play
an
on guitar.
archipelago. What is it? No, what is? I forget what it. I know what you're talking about, but that's
you talking about islands? I was just like, just go for it, man.
No, so it's the notes of a chord played in succession, either ascending or descending. So if you have the 3 notes of a chord, you go dun dun dun, but that's all they would play. They wouldn't play all 3 of them at the same time. To make the full chord. They would just play them individually in succession.
And that's how you got the percussion or the back.
That's how you kind of create depth when they didn't have the ability to. So you could play notes quickly on the old hardware, but you couldn't play many at the same time. Yeah. So to create the illusion of a chord, they would play all of the notes of a chord on one sound channel, but not do it at the same time.
That's impressive.
Hence an arpeggio.
That's pretty cool. That
is actually pretty neat.
That's pretty cool how they can do that with old It's just a weird thing. I didn't appreciate the games when I was younger because to me they were flawless because they were games and there was nothing like it at the time.
So I was a kid. So.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was you play them now and it's you kind of go back and I'm like, this is probably gonna suck. There's nothing to appreciate about this. And it's no, there's a lot to appreciate.
No, this has nothing to do with Vice Project Doom, but fuck it. I like this convo. Where I draw the line, which some people may not like, is Atari. I think Atari games are too simple. Like, there's not a lot there for me to enjoy. Like, I respect Pac-Man and Asteroids and Centipede for everything they've done for game design in terms of Pong, the first quote-unquote game. I respect it for what it did for game design and how it started everything, but they're not fun for me to play. I don't...
Nah, they're corny. You can say it.
I think it's like what generation you grew up in. Because like people that like grew up with the Atari, I mean, that blew their mind when they were kids. So
yeah, so did the wheel.
Wow, bunch of cavemen sitting in a cave. Oh my god! Look at it roll!
So if you had Atari as a kid, take that.
Yeah, suck it.
Well, I mean, for me, the first time I remember becoming obsessed with video games was when it was probably like a Super Nintendo or NES game, and I remember you could play as Mario or whatever. I'm like, I didn't say fuck, but like, holy fuck, this is a cartoon. I'm moving. I'm controlling this cartoon.
Oh yeah, it's pretty neat when you first realize like what you're actually doing.
Yeah,
and, like you learn that weird input, like the nuances of like, you know, your thumb placement, and like especially with Super Nintendo, like when you held your thumb a certain way to hold Y in to get that little extra running speed boost. Not every game had it, but you always did it. Like you just in your head you knew, like create these little like weird little ticks playing games.
Well, and it's funny because so my wife's not into games at all. So whenever she plays a game, she doesn't have any of the hand-eye coordination that like we have built up through years of playing. So like she can go back and play like Mario and stuff like that because it's simple: left, right, and jump and run. If you actually do that, but you put her in control of like a FPS on a console. They don't know. She doesn't know how to do it. A lot of times I remember I would ask my mom to play with me all the time, and she's like, how does this work? And as much as I try to explain it, where I'm like, well, one joystick controls the movement, the other controls where you're looking. That's all there is to it. It should be easy, right? No, it's a foreign concept. It's so strange.
I remember my first dual stick shooter. I believe it was Halo 1, and getting that down.
When I do a Halo episode, that's one of my biggest topics because don't get me wrong, GoldenEye and Perfect Dark are fantastic, first forays into FPSs on consoles, but Halo like revolutionized it for consoles specifically.
Yeah, specifically, I mean, like the multiplayer.
Yeah, online. I mean,
well, even like take out the multiplayer aspect. I'm talking about literally just controls.
Okay,
just controls, because Halo was the first twin stick kind of like. The way we know FPSs to work on modern consoles now, Halo started that.
True, and you had to like play the game with like a dinner plate of a controller, so you're like
the fucking big boy controller.
Like use like your left toe to like.
Well, now
turn
it's
your
like now they made like a collectible version of it. Did you guys see that?
I have not.
There's a cool it's not like it's an old school one that's valuable or anything like that. No one wants those old controllers, but Microsoft reissued it kind of like for the like an Xbox One to be compatible with the Xbox One, and it's like the old big boy controller, but the center where it has the X for Xbox, it actually has a tiny little screen, and it does this really cool like. I don't know. I'll find a video and show it to you guys. Actually, it's really cool looking.
I remember when the Halo game came out. They made like, I don't know, like 15 of them, but they came like in a suitcase, a playable suitcase that plugged in, and you open up the suitcase and the screen was there and the console was in there, and like I remember I was just like, I want that. I just want to carry around a console in a briefcase and just park it somewhere and I can play. But
that's really cool.
It's like thousands of dollars. They only made like 15 of them and shit like that. But
there was a PlayStation version that did that.
Yeah, there was an attachment you could on the PS1, not PlayStation 1. The PS1, which was like the tiny tiny PS1 version. It was like the slim version of PS1. It was like I actually have one at my parents' house. I don't know why I haven't added it to my collection here. But
it's a rare one, I would say. You don't ever hear anyone talk about that thing.
That was the first console I bought with my own money. So I'm notorious for buying consoles
with other people's money.
Oh. Yes. No. I'm notorious for buying consoles brand new right before their successor comes out. So my PS1 I bought either right before or right after. So I got my PS1 about a week after PS2 came out or something like that.
Huh.
I got my original I got my 360 about a year before the Xbox One came out. PS3 I was midway through, PS2 was midway through, but I also didn't pay for the PS2, my parents did. But I remember I was obsessed with PS1 because I wanted to play Medal of Honor really bad, like the original Medal of Honor, and so my parents were like, you already have an N64, you don't need one. I'm like, fine, I'll buy it. So I saved up forever because
They're just trying to save you from that game.
yeah. What? I love that game. Are you
You're
kidding
a
me?
fan of that?
Yeah, I
Oh
like
my
them.
God.
Storm in the Beach, dude. Like, I mean, dude, they can
They're
re-release
not
that
good
still play.
now, but like in retrospect, like when at the time, man, the first Medal of Honor, I was obsessed with like the first 2 levels. Like I loved the first 2 levels of the original Medal of Honor. Now I can't play because the controls are just too primitive. Like I know that sounds really egotistical, but it's fucking impossible to play. Like
GoldenEye is tough to play.
GoldenEye still holds up because they have the strafe buttons with the C things, the things you were talking about with the C left and C right. It takes some getting used to, but it still works.
True.
You didn't have that with you still don't have that with the original Medal of Honor, so it's like still shitty controls. It's awful.
It's like going back and play the original Turok.
Stop.
I know. I was being serious. That's a serious one. You remember the control scheme of that thing? It's like literally like you used every button on the controller to move around. It was use the D-pad, use the C buttons. It was like
we'll plug it in. We'll test it out again. I got the N64 somewhere right over there.
We'll plug in the Xbox one.
But all right, so we gave 2 guys in a game run for their money with that tangent. So
What's up, guys?
Come at us.
so back to VPD or Vice Project Doom.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah,
Because like looking up when this game came out in November 15th of 2001. Not
1991.
2001, 1991. 2001.
There was before you go on with your point, there was unlicensed NES games released in like the late 90s based off the Titanic movie.
Oh, really?
Like the Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet Titanic movie. It's awful.
I would play that game if I could just be Billy Zane just pushing people into the like
what was that game? Do you remember what it was about?
One was called Titanic because they didn't want to get sued. The other one, I don't know what it was called. It was like it was like one of those like group carts where it had like 50 in one carts or something like that.
Because I did play a Titanic game when I was a kid. Like I remember because
on the NES.
I wasn't on the.
This was for the NES.
Okay, because like my ball, I think it was like for the SNES. I had it, and like the ship's sinking, and it's like a puzzle game, and you gotta like go into different rooms and stuff like that while like the water's coming up, and it was pretty good actually. I actually enjoyed it.
Was it PC?
I believe it was a SNES game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say. So when it came out in a rough time for like any game that really come out that's not. One of the games we're going to list here, some of the big ones that come out in 1991. First of all, SNES came out.
In America, yeah.
In North America, I'll make that distinction.
I think it was like 1990 in Japan. No, it's fucking weird. The Genesis was released in 89 in Japan. You equate that with like mid-90s.
That's for some reason in my head that's how it's always been.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it came like way after.
No, it's actually beat the Super Nintendo to market.
The funny thing, you mentioned that though, in North America, what also came out in 1991? Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh my god.
The first Sonic the Hedgehog on June 23rd. So this game came out November 15th. So June 23rd, Sonic the Hedgehog. So we had a couple other things. So since the SNES launched, you also launched Super Mario World with it in the same day. It was a launch, it's a launch, cartridge right there for them. Great game.
Perfect.
So this is kind of a killer. And this, I think, is the big one, is that, only 6 days after Vice was released, they launched Zelda: A Link to the Past, which is considered one of the greatest games of all time. And it's like
many consider it the best Zelda of all time.
It's all right.
I mean, it's not good, better than Majora's Mask.
I peeked the shit out of that. It was just a big bar right on the screen.
Interesting thing, we also, just to round it out, December 16th, the first Civilization game.
Yeah, it kind of got shafted. I mean, granted, there's a million different NES games that were. I mean, like even Kirby's Adventure, right? One of the first NES Kirby game, not the first Kirby game. I don't even have the first Kirby game.
Oh?
It's for Game Boy. I don't have it though. But no, so Kirby's Adventure on the NES, that was a late NES game. That was like the 93, 94 type of thing.
Really?
Which you don't really think about it, but the later NES games, like those are usually the most technologically like impressive ones.
They know the system by that point.
Mm-hmm. But they obviously were competing with the Super Nintendo and Genesis. It's weird to think that NES games were being released the same year that like the PlayStation 1 was released.
Dude, that's blown my mind.
Yeah. That actually is kind of crazy.
PS1 came out in 94 in the US, and there were NES games released in 94, 95.
I feel like it's one of those things like they invest all this time in it and they just see like the PS1 come out and they're like, son of a bitch. Well, we got to finish this.
I mean, as a developer, you have to understand.
Well, it was cheap to develop for at that time.
Well, I mean, look at the guys who made Duke Nukem. They didn't give up a fight. They just kept trying and trying to make that game.
Maybe it should have stayed.
Maybe it should have stopped, to be honest with you.
So I'm saying you just throw in the towel at a certain point.
So the question I had, just reading off those games, though, and just seeing what it went up against, because it literally was surrounded by, like, titans of the industry that launched. So all the hype was around this new console and all these big games. If Vice released, say, like, a year earlier, when it was, like, not getting, shit on by these other games, do you think the sales, like, we would actually, like, know about it more often? Because like this, I've heard a lot of people describe Vice as, like, a hidden gem. It's not like a great game where it's like, oh, this is awesome,
but it's competently made.
Yeah, and it's like it's one of those things. Like again, you play it, you have a fun experience, but it's not going to compete against the big boys. So,
I think it would have been tough because didn't Super Mario 3 come out in 1990?
That's a good point.
So it was screwed either way.
Like, and the reality of it is though, like a lot of old NES games, like they're going to be screwed in almost any year that they came out, because every year, almost in succession, they would have a really solid game come out. Mega Man 3 came out in '89, I want to say.
I think what
or maybe it was '90.
What didn't do its justice was, I mean, I think it's a great game, but the story is so convoluted and like stupid, it had no staying power. I mean, like there's nothing to grasp from it. Like
I would agree with that.
If this was like based off of a movie, I'm sure we'd probably have another remake of this game at some point. Maybe not a lot, but like it's definitely in the vein of a Castlevania game. But Castlevania has a lot of cool lore, a lot of other elements that like help you overlook the fact that you can't crouch and move and stuff like that. Like you have like real static jumping in Castlevania, where it's just like you just plummet, like you just. There's no like glide.
There's no like gravity. As soon as you jump, it just hits you like a truck.
And it sucks, but thematically, that game's awesome. So it kind of like lets you forget all the shitty nuances. But this game is just I still don't get it.
Well, they also designed like Castlevania. They designed the gameplay around the fact that when you jump, you just fall like a lead brick or whatever. That doesn't make any fucking sense. A sack of bricks.
You can make a lead brick, I guess.
A lead brick.
I mean,
we're not biased.
It's still going to drop pretty quick.
It's going to be heavy as hell. So they design a lot of the gameplay around that. So you can usually tell shitty NES games when they have a mechanic that could be interesting, but they don't design around it. They have a flaw of the game or of the gameplay, and instead of designing around it, they just kind of leave it in.
So that's what this game felt like to me. It felt like it's like halfway to a great game. Like you can see, like if you continue playing it, you can see where like the good parts shine through. But there are things that really hold it back.
The way I would say is if it came out before Ninja Gaiden, it would be the same. It would have the same level of reverence as Ninja Gaiden because it's more complex. It was more complex. It has 3 different weapons you can choose from. The bosses are relatively hard. I mean, maybe it's not going to be as hard as Ninja Gaiden, so it's not going to have that same level of infamy that the difficulty of Ninja Gaiden. But it's a similar, like you guys have said, it's similar gameplay. So if it would have come out at any time before the first Ninja Gaiden game on NES, I think it would have been held a larger place in game history.
I will say that when I was playing this, I wrote down Ninja Gaiden, and I thought about writing it down again because I'm like, it really feels like they took some influence from that game.
Definitely. I will say you can't clean the walls like you can in Ninja Gaiden, but honestly, I was just really impressed with how like the flow of the combat and everything. If you're good, you don't ever have to stop. You can just swing at perfect intervals.
It definitely has like a speedrunner's like wet dream on it. It's just like that kind of game. It's just like I wonder there has to be someone who has a record for this game, but it's just like the way it's designed. Like, and you said it earlier, but it's definitely like till you kind of like say like you can do the game with just seamlessly. It's like you really can because it. I mean, it seems like the game just moves from one end to the other without any real stopping out.
Yeah, it does. But that's the thing. It's like, I get why people like that. Personally, I'm not a big fan of that. I like that variedness where you got to actually stop and think for a second. Mm-hmm. To me, that's what it felt a little more bland as I kept playing through. Like the levels, where I was like, all right, I get it. It's a SNES game, but
it's not a SNES game.
I mean, NES. I keep saying SNES all the time. I can't help
but
it.
at the same time, just to play a little bit as devil's advocate, you don't finish games.
Oh, we're gonna
Do
go
you-
there,
do-
Josh.
do you-
You
do
do
you-
me like that
do you
on your own
think-
podcast.
Got him.
I don't finish games either. I'm right in there with you.
Hey, I might have finished a game one time.
But would you say that part of that could go into effect where like maybe that's why you can't finish games because you need a lot of it's like game ADD. You need something different every like 2 to 3 levels.
It was like an intervention. This is what this is. You guys
He's not,
sandbag
playing
me.
this
he's not even recording.
Yeah, there's nothing recording here. He's an intervention. He's like, we need to know why you're not playing these games or you're finishing these games. You need to finish them.
I do need to finish these. There's a lot.
Yeah, I think you're a lot worse than we do because I mean your collection's massive. So
Yeah, well, I feel like he's got a good example. Like he could just buy these games, and be like, I'm not going to finish them, and no one expects them. I buy like 2 games. I'm like, I ain't going to finish any of them.
40 for 40 is about to turn into 400 for 400.
We're getting close to the end of 40 for 40. There's actually, if I'm correct, I want to say there's only 2 episodes left after this. This is like 38.
All right,
This is
all
38.
right.
Man, we snuck in there.
Yeah,
we did.
we're closing in. There's only two games left to cover for it. Then I got to figure out what the whole reason I even started this stupid series is because I could never figure out what game I wanted to play. So I'm like, fine, I have a whole shitload of these complete in the box NES games. Let's just go through them. I don't care what they are. I don't know
I've been
anything
following
about
the
them.
whole time. That's actually I've been listening to you before. Since we started doing our show. Brian happened to mention that. I was like, oh, one of my buddies, does a gaming podcast. So I've always been listening. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I like it. I mean, it's a lot of these games I played. I probably say out of the 40, maybe like 19. I think I've owned or played, and then the other ones like I'll try and play a couple. I was playing a couple along with you, and then when we did this one, I played this one as a kid, and it was just like the only thing I wanted to do was play the car part. Like I remember as a
over and
kid,
over and
just
over
like
again.
I'd play the car part, and then I would just be terrible at the other parts. I just remember walking up, hit and reset, and then. That's all I would play. I mean, I don't think I ever beat the boss as a kid, but
See, I didn't even think that anyone would do something. I mean, that's a really nice compliment. So thank you. Like you guys, I remember even listening to your first couple episodes, and I was like, all right, it's being honest, it was like I thought it was okay, but as you guys got like it's the same thing. Like if you listen to my first 20 episodes, they're shit. You guys got a lot better than I did, a lot faster. And I mean that honestly, like wholeheartedly. Like I look forward to your guys' episodes because your banter back and forth it's great.
It's literally what we do when we're not even recording. We've had so many people tell
There was
us that.
conversations we were having before the mics were on, and I'm like, this would have been fucking hilarious to have on mic.
It's a problem we always have because like we'll literally like do like a pre-show, I guess, like and like an hour it just burned through all this great stuff. And we're like, oh shit, we didn't record any of this.
When you guys started Patreon, just start recording stuff and just start recording your conversations. Don't start the show. Just kind of leave the mics on in the background and just say like, all right, I mean, you might have to deal with some shitty audio quality because we're not trying right now. And then when you officially try to start the episode, that's what you would release. And then your Patreon content.
It's a good idea.
be-
you hear my wife come in and yell at me, "Did you walk the dog? I'm recording. Did you walk the dog?"
A lot of yelling back and forth about who walked the dog. We got a backyard, so we can just let the dog out.
I should actually do that more. we take our puppy to a park and we'll go to like the hockey rink, right? Close the gates and just bring tennis balls, chuck him. He just sprints. But I need to like just take him for walks more often because I'm seeing on the bottom of his paws, like I can see like they're getting a little like not blistered, but there's some brush burns. So I don't want him to like hurt himself anymore because he has no self control. He's just going to keep on running for the balls. So
Right? Yeah, the dogs don't care.
Yeah, as long as we're having fun.
That's exactly. But no, so I don't have much else to say about this game.
Wait, we got to talk about the third part of this game. So you have a shooter.
Oh yeah,
There's
you
a
have
whole
platformer.
whole third section. I wouldn't say third section.
it's like one
one
segment
level.
of the game. To be fair, we also didn't watch the full long play because it wasn't crazy long, but we didn't have the time to watch the 40-minute playthrough.
From what I remember looking it up, I believe there's 2 sections for both the shooting and the car racing. And the
Okay.
car racing is done on the first level, and I think it's done one other time toward the end of the game. I think the same thing with the on-rail shooter section. Is that what we're gonna?
I don't know what
I'm
that's
just gonna.
called. Is there like a name for that? Like
I just call it a shmup. Because, I mean, if you think about it like a top-down shooter like Xevious or What's a really popular one? That R-Type, that was a really popular one. Like, the level moves consistently across. You're not just staying in one spot. The only difference is that you actually see, like, the level narrows and expands.
Oh yeah, it's like the road.
Yeah,
There's like
the racing
obstacles.
part, yeah.
Like, think of it this way: replace the car with an airplane, and you have 1941,
Which is a
or
great
1942
game.
or
Yeah, that's
whatever.
easily one of
Yeah,
my favorites.
that's an awesome game.
But the
I
difference,
love that game.
I think I have that somewhere here. Maybe not. I don't remember. I have way too many freaking games.
But there's like the part of the game, like all of a sudden, like after you're done doing karate and jumping through and fighting these weirdos, like all of a sudden, like it just pans out to like a section where you feel like you should have a light gun, and like you just move like you're just scrolling the little crosshair, and you're just shooting guys, and like guys pop up across the screen, they're just beating your ass with whatever they got, and I was like, is this part of the game? Like, am I? I mean, I couldn't beat that part. At that part, I was done.
Well, it's probably really difficult. Were you playing on your computer too?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it was probably even more difficult
Yeah.
because you didn't have a D-pad.
No.
I will say though, like,
Give it the D.
see if I ever play that game now, or that section again. That's all I'm going to think about.
Every time I play any game that has a D-pad, that's like a constant joke in my head. It has varying levels of funniness or like humor depending on what I'm
got me.
doing.
That's not bad. I never heard that
childish.
one
I thought it was
actually.
hilarious.
So I mean, that's actually pretty good because any Super Nintendo or N64 game, it's like, gotta use a D-pad. Hit him with a D.
That's
all I know.
Gave Mario the D all the time.
Yeah. Oh, you got a C-pad too.
C-pad.
Look at that. Nintendo.
That's for those
Grow
English
up.
guys over across the pond who can say the C word with zero impunity.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Can't do that here.
But anyway, I forget where we were at now. We were talking about the shooting section.
Oh yeah, the on-rail
shooting gallery.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like I was at a carnival. I was going to win like an elephant prize or some shit.
So the interesting thing, and I looked this up because I was curious, there is no light gun support for that section whatsoever.
I don't understand why.
I don't understand why either, because it feels like it was like they had an awesome idea, or like maybe they were going to put that in another game, or they're going to make more of the game about that. But they're like, we like this idea. Let's just throw it in there.
I was waiting for like a dog to pop up, go hee.
And what's weird is that Bayou Billy game that I was talking about that did a similar thing.
Bayou Billy.
It has light gun support.
Yeah,
You can add the shooting sections of
a game called Bayou Billy's got this shit, but not this game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a crazy part about it. I'm like, it feels like it's specifically made for it.
Well, it's even funnier, just to talk about Bayou Billy for a quick second. I mentioned in the episode, but the American version of Bayou Billy is more difficult than the Japanese version, which is
That's different.
Well, that whole stereotype that the Japanese versions are more difficult is true initially. Like, if you look at like Mega Man 2, normal mode doesn't exist in Japan. Hard mode for us was just the regular game for them. They added an easy mode, quote unquote, for us, but called it normal mode to make us feel good.
So it's like a slight, basically. Oh, that's nice. Screw you, Japan.
But then the thing is, though, the difference is that they sorry,
I got them both with that one.
Just this blatant hate for no reason.
what
so
got me is
mean.
like I kind of moved on, and I see James out of the corner of my eye, just like trying not to laugh into the mic. And it was a slow burn on that one. It just kind of crept up on me.
That's what I do.
No, so since the U.S. had a rental market and Japan really didn't, Nintendo hated the rental market. They're like, why are all these people playing our games when not buying it? We're not making any money off of the rental market. So they made American versions of games outrageously difficult and the idea was in their heads, like, well, if they can't beat it during the week they rent it, then they're going to have to buy it. But it kind of backfired, because if you can't beat a game in the week that you rent it, you're like, I don't want to buy it because this game's fucking stupid.
It's two-way street right there.
It was a dumb idea. But no, so it was just weird because Bayou Billy is one of the ones that does that, that had that weird issue where it was super difficult. But to bring it back to Vice, or VPD, I'm just going to call it VPD. It's a lot easier than saying Vice Project Doom.
Call Vice.
Okay, Vice. To bring it back to Vice,
Vice
I want to
City?
sound cool by making it into an
Yeah,
acronym.
do acronyms.
VPD. That's what everything is on the internet now.
Sounds like
LOL.
something that my doctor would say I have.
Sounds like a venereal disease or something.
It's exactly sounds like something my doctor would say to me.
So I went to Vegas and I got VPD.
That's a disease where like your eyelids fall off.
Yeah, it'd be something weird like that.
I can't blink. They're just so dry.
You're consistently crying.
Vision protection disorder.
Yeah, vision protection disorder. Your eyelids fall out.
Oh my God.
It's vicious. It's really vicious.
What a weird... That'd be a weird thing to wish upon someone.
Like a salamander.
I hope you lose your eyelids.
Well, I'm now going to be wishing people that. Maybe get VPD.
People just taking their eyelids for granted now.
I know, right? I mean, what is it? It's built in that like, if you don't blink for a while, that's why your eyes water because they need to be moist. I hate that word.
No, I love it.
Moist cakes. That's all I got to say.
There you go. But so like your eyes will water. So if that actually happened, you just have people crying all the time, and not because they're sad, but because.
But
they,
then you
I
also
think they'd be a
fix the
little sad.
problem that
They would
you
be a
know,
little sad.
nobody could be without water because you just cried all out. So
you constantly need. It's almost like you have an IV of just water
Yeah.
consistently going in.
This literally sounds like hell. I'm just saying.
it's been the next pinhead.
This could be your next thing for if two guys in a game throw something back at you.
Just no
We
eyelids.
cut their eyelids off, right? That's what, is that where you're going with
This
this?
got hostile so fast.
Oh,
You could either play the Labo or you could have no eyelids for the rest of your life.
see, Josh is in on it now. Damn.
I can't tell you guys yet, but I have an idea coming up. I told Hodder about it.
Uh-oh.
I have an idea of how to throw my ring into or my gauntlet
conspiring
into the
against
ring.
us.
He's scheming.
No,
Yeah.
it's not. You'll see. I have an idea.
I walked in here, I smelled maple syrup. I knew. I knew.
We're going to end up with no eyelids.
Yeah, it's- I'm a cosplay as a newt. Just find me under a rock, just wet with no eyelids.
So while we're on topic, quick question, Josh.
Yeah.
Do you own a Labo?
No, but I
Or a
want to.
Labo? Really? You want to?
I want to, and that's
Finish
where
like
that's all I'm
James.
going to say about it. Because until I do my Labo episode,
Oh, jeez.
Oh, man, I'm excited for that. I can't wait.
it's gonna be a little bit. I can't. Labos aren't crazy expensive, but I really need to watch my money right now. So
$20, I'll give you all the cardboard in my house.
I'm pretty sure it's just like, he just doesn't want to like come home and his wife's sitting there. He's like trying to sneak in. He's like, did you just spend $80 in cardboard?
Is that a cardboard piano?
No,
Punch you in the eyelid.
no.
you don't have them anymore.
I did not buy $80
You
worth
got
of cardboard.
VPD now. You don't. I can't even punch you in the eyelid anymore.
Or even worse, like a disease where like your toenails are on the underside of your foot.
What?
So you constantly get dirt under them. Like,
What's wrong with you?
I just figured we're on the heinous disease like you can get from Vegas.
What's wrong with your toe?
Just saying, like, just reverse toenails. Like they're on the bottom. So like it's just smooth up top, looking real awkward like a Ken doll. But underneath. Imagine trying to trim that. Imagine trying to paint that.
You gotta like
Wear sandals.
imagine.
Cool. You
Imagine
can't.
if you're overweight trying to trim your
the underside.
your
You
foot
get it.
nails.
Like Wolverine.
Your undernails. That's what. Yeah,
Undernails.
your undernails. Yeah, you ain't getting that.
Nah, done.
Sounds like ingrown. It's like toenail. It's like that's
Would it be ingrown or outgrown? So
You
it's
guys
reversed.
need to save these for all your throwbacks. I mean, come on, for your arguments.
I'm pretty-
all right. So for those who don't know about this, the geeks here, James and Bryan, have been having an ongoing argument with
All of
our
Canada.
friends over all of Canada, our friends over
bring it on, guy.
our friends over at Two Guys in a Game about what they would rather do: play the Nintendo Labo, which they both podcasts equally hate. Well, maybe not equally.
I feel like there's people in this discussion that like it secretly. Just want to put that out there. No, didn't want to interrupt, but put the thought in your mind.
But so they've been trying to one up each other over the alternative to the Labo. So what it started out with original RuneScape or Labo.
And then it like gets real rated R. So
It goes
got,
downhill
It
quickly.
got rated R real
if you
fast.
Want,
Like
yeah, you don't gotta tell them, but if you want to, if you're not, it's kind of it gets rough.
there was talks of being a power bottom as well as human centipede and
While being power bottomed.
being power bottom.
I just thought Power Bomb was a wrestler move, so I was okay with it.
Walking around in like pools of pee. It's just
All not to play with cardboard.
all not to play. I mean, it's been intense. So, I guess this is the plug that it's not the end of the episode yet, but here's your guys' plug for that would normally go at the end of the episode. Well, I'll probably do it again there. Listen to Know Geeks Allowed, KNOW, Know Geeks Allowed,
Yep.
and as well as two guys in a game to hear this back and forth, because it's insane. It's usually at the tail end of each episode they have something, but
Yeah, I mean, they had like a Q&A starting from like their episode 30, and, you know, Kaz didn't want to play Labo, and I was just like, let me see if I can come on ultimatum to get him to play it, and it just spiraled downhill.
he has not given up yet. He has just not given up.
He's a formidable foe, but
Got VP days. What do you got?
they got free healthcare to cure that. You get prosthetic
Can't
eyelids.
cure.
They got hooks for some reason.
Just see these like plastic.
I need to see a picture of someone with prosthetic eyelids now.
Don't Google that. Don't go that far on the internet. Get out of there. Pull up.
Prosthetic eyelids. All right, so we should get back to the real VPD of Vice Project 2.
That's what I was talking about the whole time. You guys are over here being gross.
All right. So, I guess the one thing I wanted to comment, even though I was ready to wrap it up, like before we talked about the shooting section, the bosses I thought were actually really cool.
They were actually really well done.
Some of them, I will say that. Some of them
are pretty simple, but I like simple because I like being good at things. So I'm okay with it.
That's a good point.
I just don't like getting stunned by an NES game. Like that to me, like that's just.
that's the thing,
aside
like-
from Mega Man.
But like, there's they call it Nintendo Hard for a reason. Like these games are fucking insane.
Yeah,
Friday the 13th.
that's an impossible game.
Just saying.
There's a lot of impossible games on
Right.
the NES. Whether it's because they're so poorly designed that you don't know what the hell you're supposed to do, or
Friday the
because but no, the bosses were really cool. All of them were, from what we saw, because we didn't see all the bosses, but we jumped around in the long play. There was a good couple of really interesting concepts. The one that at least Brian and I got stuck on, and we found out we could just crouch and dodge almost
my God.
everything.
When I
which
found
is
that, I
depressing
saw
as hell.
that. I was just like, I want to go home now. Just fall
Even
down.
though, like to piggyback off of talking about Nintendo Hard, this game's very forgiving when you lose.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah, that is
you
a
don't
good
like
point.
you get to, like, I'm level 3 and you die in most Nintendo games. Guess what? You're starting the whole game over. This one, like, you just go back to like they had checkpoints. I mean,
the way I kind of describe it, it's got the Mega Man level of forgiveness, where like when you die, if you don't lose all your lives, then you start at a checkpoint, and the checkpoints are pretty forgiving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And usually when you die right in the boss, they have a checkpoint right before the boss, and it's literally like one screen away, just like Mega Man. However, if you lose all your lives, then you have to start over from the beginning of that level. So it's very fair, I would say. It doesn't make you feel like, it doesn't punish you too much for failing, but it punishes you just enough for, like, if you have to start over through the beginning of a tough level, you're going to be pissed.
Yeah.
And it makes you want to do better next time.
Yeah, it definitely made it where, like, I'll be honest with you, if I died and I had to start the whole game over, I would have been much easier to have been like, no, I'm not playing this anymore.
Oh, yeah. That's how a bunch of old NES games were, though. They would just start you from the beginning again.
Yeah, that's
Over and over and over again. Though Ninja Gaiden did something weird where, like, it was... if you lost all your lives, you'd start at the beginning of that specific level, that specific stage. Because you know how there's, like... in Ninja Gaiden, there's like 3 stages per level or something.
Yeah.
It's like 1, 2, 1, or 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3. If you died on the final stage, you lost all your lives on the final stage, or in the final level. So say you're on stage 4 of the final level, it will start you back at stage 1 of the final level.
Yeah.
All the others will start you back at the beginning of that individual stage. Everything else in the game, so I think there's like 6 levels in the game, right? So if you die on stage 4 of level 5, it'll start, and you lose all your lives at stage 4 of level 5, it'll start you back at the beginning of
That's not
stage
bad.
4
Yeah.
for level 5. But if you go to the final one, level 6, if you die on the final boss of the game and you lose all your lives, you have to redo all 3 of those the hardest levels in the entire game. The 3 hardest
wow.
stages.
I'm okay with that though.
that's still not. I mean, sending back
Not
to
the whole
beginning of the
game, but
yeah, I'm still okay with that. Sounds like Ninja Gaiden is just a better game. Put it out there.
It's a
Pretty good game.
We could try it out if you want to. It's tough as shit, but all right. I think because it's getting kind of late, we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah.
And we've been going for almost an hour. This is one of my longer episodes, so thank you guys.
Yeah,
Seriously.
no problem.
That was awesome coming over here.
Pleasure.
And hopefully I can come onto your show. That's not me. That's me inviting myself on, which
It is really rude.
I know, but
Absolutely
I did it anyway.
despicable.
So.
But absolutely, no, definitely going on. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, so I guess to wrap this all up, we kind of started with the final thoughts, but is there anything else that you didn't get to say for this at all? Any kind of last minute thoughts, I guess, for this one?
Let me just check here. I mean, the one interesting thing I would say is I found out that this game was actually on the cover of Nintendo Power in May of 1991.
So it had exposure.
It did have exposure.
It did have something then.
It needed something. I'm surprised they dedicated.
If this was a movie
cover to that,
I would watch in a heartbeat because
my
80s just
80s action movies.
I love
cheesy,
them.
yeah.
Like Big Trouble in Little China is my all-time favorite movie. This is like in that same vein. Like this is just like
over the top
Oh
in
my
all the
God.
best ways. Yeah, I'm up there with you. I'm right there with you. But
that movie's overrated.
I hate you so
that's
much.
a debate for another. All right, so thank you all for listening. I guess our usual plugs and shout outs at the end. We'll start out with you guys. Know Geeks Allowed, KNOW, Know Geeks Allowed. Do you guys have any plugs though besides just your podcast? Anything else to plug?
I'm really cute.
But you're also married.
Oh, it's not for anybody else. I'm just it's for me.
Oh, okay, that's good to
I want
know.
to make it official.
I'm just going to point that out there. Correction, he's not. So there you go.
And
That's my
that's
plug.
what friendship is for. But all right, so you can also make sure you also check out Two Guys in a Game. But we were talking about them before. Another really awesome podcast, Hotter and Kaz. They're from Canada. Those lovable Canadian goofballs. My original podcasting partner in crime, Erica from the Apex and the Abyss. If you ever get a chance to listen to her, it's one of the best true crime podcasts
I actually
out there.
just started listening to it.
Hers are really good, right?
It's really well done.
She has a lot of research.
Yeah.
A lot of research. Her first episode, The Boy in the Box, was like one of my favorite episodes of any podcast.
Sound weird. I start backwards.
As you started from her newest one.
Yeah.
Her
You
next
monster.
episode, she just announced, is coming out in September. So
Awesome.
I'm looking forward to that. And also Christian and Damon's Amazing Nerd Show. Drinks with Larry, that's a really great podcast. I really like their stuff. The guys are really funny. And is there anyone I'm missing? I feel like I'm missing one other show and I can never remember it. Whatever.
Did you name all 40 of TJ's?
Yeah. Oh, the Hotter Show.
There it is.
Forgot about the Hotter Show.
Oh, all right.
And Mike's and Beers, although I haven't listened to it, but it's TJ, so I'm more than happy to plug his stuff because he makes good content. And that should pretty much do it. So, you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at StillLoadingPod on all of them. I always forget to do that.
Plug
if you guys
yourself.
go back to listen to my first couple of episodes, not a couple, the first 50, I never plug my own shit. It'll be on and off. You'll hear me plug Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram and stuff one episode, and then it'll go two, and I won't mention it at all, and then I'll go back. I never think of it. So, but all right, guys, thank you all for listening, and I will see you all next time.
See ya.
See.
What? We can take anything from your room?